Welcome to the Booktrovert Babes podcast, where two friends decided to take our dramatic conversations about books here for your entertainment. I'm Rubik's mom of 5 and a baby reader just entering my book era.
And I'm Taylor, a mom of 2 and a well-seasoned book era veteran. Today, we're doing some wraps. The February wraps and then our March TBRs. I'm so excited.
I almost wanted to say I'm a baby reader crushing my book era because
I have been
month
thinking,
2 in a row.
Eventually, we're going to have to retire your sentence.
No, I am still
You're
a baby.
Not a baby reader anymore, bestie.
I'm a baby.
In the last year than some people will in 5 years. So I don't know how much of a baby you can call yourself anymore.
I'm just a baby.
No. We could have it voted. I think we should have people vote on whether or not you're a baby.
I still
be an adolescent.
Okay, hold on. I still consider myself a baby because I'm still just like dipping my toe in several different like tropes and genres and plot lines and stuff. So I still consider myself a baby because I'm still just like, I mean, look at our dark romance that we read this month. And you're like, you don't read dark romance. And what did I say? I'm just not.
I'm just a baby.
I'm just a baby. Like I'm not experienced in any particular genre except for fantasy.
We need to get like a soundboard so we can get that. I'm just a baby.
I'm just a baby.
But on that note, so Rubik's, yes. How was your February?
Smashed. I think I had a 20 book TBR, including some of the optionals that like I have lying around that I was like, I need to get those out of my app, you know. That total came to 27. However, I knew, no, there's like a whole section. Yeah. There is a whole section that just says optional.
Yeah, the backlog.
Yeah, it's just like, if I crush everything on my TBR, here's some that I'm trying to get rid of that I want to choose from first, right? But yeah, so I had 20 on my TBR and I read 19 of them.
Yeah, because you were a little motivated this month. Care to share for anyone who didn't see it on Fable what you said?
I may or may not have put on one of my little review things that one of my Fable posts that I was trying to stay ahead of you. I was trying to beat you this month.
Yeah. You did say that, and then you activated.
It's just because I'm rarely ahead of you in the month, and I was ahead of you for a little bit, and so I'm like,
2 days.
Maybe I can stay ahead of her.
You were,
but I swear every time.
And then you swear. Had you not put that comment, you wouldn't have activated the beast.
I know.
That is my competitive side.
I know, I did. But had I not posted that, I could have stayed ahead of you for a lot longer. I swear every time I say something about me being ahead of you, you start just padding your TBR with novellas.
I read 1 novella or 2 novellas this month.
One
of which you were supposed to read with me.
I couldn't find it. You need to pick stuff that I can find.
Being ahead of you, I only read 2 novellas, and one of which, again, we were supposed to read together, and you did not, because you hate me.
That's true. I did also slump at the end of the month.
You did slump at the end of the month.
Like, I'm literally fighting to get myself out of it, and otherwise I probably would have read 2 other books. But yeah. So where's your number this month?
So glad you asked. I had a 23 book TBR. I read 22.
Nice.
And
we broke down by 1.
I did not veer off at all this month. The first time ever, every single one of those 22 books was on that 23 book TBR, which I've been texting you that I was so excited and so proud of myself that I needed to tell you something. So, as we said in the last podcast where we talked about our February TBRs, because I was so excited. However, there was some books of shame who have been on the TBR since
a very long time.
I read 2 of the 3 of them. The one book that I did not read this month, I am 30% into. It will be read in March because I'm 30% in. I paused it so I could read another book. That wasn't my fault because I was ill prepared of how badly I needed to get into this book. Once that one's finished, I plan on finishing this one. So officially, my backlog that has existed since November will be retired because I read it.
Nice.
I'm so proud of myself.
That's awesome. I added 2.
Okay.
But the only thing that was originally on my TBR that I did not read was that one novella that I could not find.
To be fair, we keep calling it a novella, but it was over novella standards. It was 200 some odd pages, and novella standard is under 150 or under 200.
Yeah. Okay.
So it wasn't quite novel length, but it was like a extra long novella.
what you were calling the Valentine's novella you wanted me to
Because it
read.
is.
That's the only thing I didn't get to.
I'm very upset with you for
I'm
it.
sorry.
Because it was wild. And I'm very sad you weren't there to be on the ride with me.
Listen, you could have
I was left
screenshotted it to
alone.
me if you wanted to.
Screenshotted it? Like
Yeah.
taking pictures of the page and sent it to you?
Yeah.
It was on Kindle Unlimited.
Was it?
Yes, everything by Kayla
Oh
Gross is
yeah.
on KU.
Just read it and record it and send it to me in voice
I
memos.
can't read some of those chapters. You know I can't read some of those chapters. It's not happening. Not a chance. There's no chance I would get through saying some of those sentences with a straight face. So you would just listen to me giggle.
So let's talk about some of the stuff that we did read. Okay, so first of all, what was your favorite read this month? If you had to pick one, what was the top?
You know what's really effed up about you asking me that question? In our big book club server, we have this end of the month check-in, and that's one of the questions. And I have been notably didn't answer it for a while, and then Mel texts me and was like, "So what was your favorite book of the month?" Because she knew that it was between two, and I was like, I don't want to pick. My favorite read of the month was 1,000 Broken Pieces by Tilly Cole. But
That's fair.
notably, close second was Scythe and Sparrow.
Oh, Scythe and Sparrow was so fun.
It was so good, and it was so funny, and it was the perfect ending to that trilogy. However, the relatability of Broken Pieces, like I can't not acknowledge how powerful of a book that is to speak to the grief representation. It's my favorite of the month. So I'm curious what your top read of the month was, because you read both those books.
I did.
So I'm curious, are they also in your top, or did something else sneak in there?
So I think 1,000 Broken Pieces is a phenomenal book, and I was extremely moved by it. So much so that it may have aided in a very difficult few days that I've had.
And I'm not saying I told you so.
No, I know. You guys totally warned me. And I will say I got through the book fine, but what I wasn't anticipating was other things. Well, it's not even the aftermath. It was other things that came up that I was more sensitive to because of the book. You know what I mean? Like, if those things hadn't come up, I would have been fine.
It's so the grief is at the forefront of your mind, and there's other things. It's like, of course, other things come up when that's at the forefront of your mind. You know, like,
yes,
it's like when when I just had this conversation with my mom. We went to go visit my grandmother, my kid's great grandmother, and I had forgotten to pack something of my youngest, like an extra diaper and wipes. So I drove an hour away, and I had no diapers and no wipes. And I didn't need them because I didn't know that I need them. But if I needed them and I knew that I forgot them, he would have had a blowout. He would have thrown up in the car, because that's how it always goes. It's like, if something is on your mind, everything goes wrong with what's like correlated, or something comes up that's correlated to what's on your mind. So like, of course, that's how it's going to go. Because it happened to Mel. She read the book, and then she spiraled a little bit from the aftermath of it.
Yeah.
And then I did a little bit. Like, it's so prominent in your mind.
Yeah. I definitely had to take a couple breaks during it because I had to process. However, even though it was beautiful, it was a very moving story. It's not my favorite of the month. I think my favorite is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue.
I forgot you read that in February, because I knew Kaylee read it in February, and it's her favorite read of the month. I'm just gonna pat myself on the back because I got both. I did it again, guys. I got both of these bitches in December with the Shepherd King duology, and now I got them in February with The Invisible Life.
You did it. I'm
crushing this.
You're crushing it.
That's another one with a really powerful message, though.
Amazing. Like, I was I was crying so much. I cried so much in that book. Not even just at the end, like the entire time I'm crying. And I think it might have aided it. Like, I feel like the stuff that I went through this month emotionally just had like tie-ins of everything, right? Because I started with Addie LaRue.
That's why I'm saying I forgot you read it. That means you read two books with like grief as a big prominent
grief themes. Yeah.
Theme. Oh,
Yep. I did. Okay. Actually, 4. I think 4. Yeah.
So what you're saying
Listen,
is
I'm not saying I make good
you
choices, okay?
fueled your spiral.
I'm not saying I make good choices.
You're suffering the consequences of your own actions.
I read 4 books with intense grief themes this month.
Damn.
Okay? I did Addie LaRue.
Mm-hmm.
I did 1,000 Boy Kisses and 1,000 Broken Pieces. And I
Mm-hmm.
also did 13 Reasons Why this month. So
she's suffering the
we make
consequences of her own
choices,
actions.
okay? Yeah. We make
Damn.
choices, y'all. And we don't think it through.
No.
This is also part of like the you know what, I can't even
You know what?
blame it on going in blind this time because
Maybe
every
the theme,
single one of these freaking books I knew what I was doing, but I did it anyway.
maybe the theme you have set for your March TBR is the way to go because you also read Perks in January. So you're just on like a line of like emotional books.
Yeah.
Maybe you should follow the thought process for March and no more emotional books for like 30 days. You're cut
Yeah.
off. You're having
Yeah.
a dry March. No tears.
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try really hard.
Yeah,
Yeah, I set myself for a lot of emotional
yeah, you did.
turmoil this month. But I got through it. I'm okay. Ish. I
Heavy
think
of it
though
is.
definitely that The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue was my favorite this month. It was
Yeah.
so beautiful. You are absolutely right that I do want to buy it and rebind it immediately. I have not yet because I really am making myself wait.
I've seen so many like fan arts and like fan rebindings, and they're all gorgeous. So I can only imagine what you would do for it. That book, like, that you could. There's no wrong path
No.
to rebind that book. I mean, even the original cover is gorgeous, and I have the second edition cover. Kaylee's really tempting me to get the special edition cover. They're all different and they're all beautiful, and yet I feel
Yeah.
like you could keep going with the artistry of it, and it just is so meaningful.
Oh yeah. I already have a very clear idea of what I want to do for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm
You read it
excited,
this
but
month, so that would have been my guess. I for some reason
yeah.
thought you did end of January and Kaylee did it in February. Had I remembered, I absolutely would have known that that was your favorite over the Broken Pieces.
Yeah. So what was your most disappointing book this month? Oh, that face.
That's a loaded question. My most disappointing because I thought I was going to love it and I didn't like it, or disappointing because it just was not a good book?
Oh, okay. Let's do worst book first.
The worst book I read this month was Buckshot by Kayla Gross. It was a Valentine's Day novella.
Now I'm okay with the fact that I didn't find it.
I gave it a 3.25, so it wasn't bad. It just happens to be my worst rated, but it's still 3.25. It's a Valentine's Day novella. Like,
yeah.
The end. That's all you're gonna get out of that.
Yeah.
Hey Rubik's, what was your least favorite book this month?
Okay, so we're gonna talk about this.
Strongly encourage everybody to follow Rubik's on Fable if you're not already, because oh boy, you would have been in for a treat this month.
Here's the funny thing is I already know a lot of people that are following me on Fable that I did not realize before because I got asked a couple of times in Twitch chats and other people's streams, are you okay?
You shook people. Rubik's has this, like, here's the thing. I can say this because I know you so well, but your Twitch will say persona is you're very sweet. You are very kind. You're very nice. You are a girl's girl. You're a bestie. You're a ride or die. All the same things I can say about you. However, I know that you have a mean streak, that you like when you're mad, you can go there. Other people don't know that, but I know that. Like,
I
when you're
really do shove
ready,
that down. I really do shove it down most of the time. But if I am just
ready to break out and you're in a mood, watch the fuck out. Your least favorite book needed to watch the fuck out.
So I feel like I don't even feel like I needed to defend myself with this one either, because it's just I'm not going to judge anybody for loving this book. I'm really not. We talked about this when we were recording a podcast episode that's coming out later, where we talk a lot about fantasy. And I mentioned then I have to have plot. I do not mind smut, but I gotta have the plot. Like, that's what I'm reading it for. The smut is like a fun little bonus factor, you know, fun little bonus hee ha's. I need plot. And I could not find.
If you want to know her exact words for it, again, go follow her on Fable. She found something. The way you phrased it, I think, is what had people going, oh, Rubik's? You good?
The thing that I put in my review was something that I had also texted Kaylee since she read that with us, and
You were
Mel
so
and Tish.
convinced she wasn't gonna like it.
It wasn't that I was convinced she wasn't going to like it.
Your exact
It's
words were
that
Kaylee is going to hate it.
she had also said that she needs plot.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought she would be upset that there was no plot as well. She ended up
Which
loving it. That's fine.
my defense was, I got what you were saying in fantasy. I've read dark romances with Kaylee. I've read it's like 7 or 8 now at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I knew she was going to like it because there's just a formula in dark romance that works for her, and that hit all the boxes. So I knew, regardless of the opinion of plot or no plot, too much smut. No, there's no debating that there was too much smut. There was a lot of smut.
Yeah.
I knew the
I wouldn't
things
say
that
too
weren't in the
much.
book were
That's the
going
thing.
to make her like it more.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say there was too much. My only grievance.
I almost would, and you knew I was like eating.
I was fine with it. The smut doesn't bother me. What bothered me is at the beginning of the book, I'm reading it and I'm like, cool, I see the building blocks for a good plot. Interesting
to be fair,
plot.
you were in it until about 60 something when that first thing where you texted me. I think that's like 65% of the way into the book.
Yep.
It's not in the beginning that it lost you. You genuinely were here for the ride, having a tee-hee time.
I was. So the pucking wrong number was the pucking wrong book for me.
Because you gave it a what? Is this the lowest rated book you've ever done?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't even remember because I went back and forth on what I was rating it.
Oh, I remember.
Several times. What did I rate it?
1.75.
1.75. Okay. Because I was at like 1.5. And then I was like, but I really did like Homeless Bill. And then I went up to 2. And then I was like, well, I don't know. Like I fought myself with it because I don't write bad reviews like that.
Mm-hmm.
And what made me so angry about it was that I saw all the building blocks for the plot in the beginning and was like, cool, we're going to just wait for this to take off. Building blocks for the plot were there. Building blocks for the romance were there. And then about halfway through, 60% or so, was like, the hell? Are we just not going to do anything with the plot that she set us up for? Like, where is it? I was so frustrated because after that point, it felt like the actions did not match a lot of the emotions that were being expressed. And it just felt very disjointed for me. And I don't feel like she executed the plot. I felt like she dropped the ball of the plot in favor of the smut and then rushed the end and was like, well, now they have to be fine for the romance.
So I feel like knowing the things that worked for you in this book will help fine-tune to find you the right dark romance for you.
Yeah.
Because this was a message you missed. I did go back. We said it. You did. So you missed it.
Mm-hmm.
The point of the Pucking Wrong series is it's extremely unserious. There's very purposefully Delulu men who worship their women. And that's it. That is the plot. So throwing in these like other trauma thrillery vibes into it is just to give us something. Truly, these books are tee-hee smutty hockey men who worship their women. There really is no other big plot to them. Like, I loved it because I was cracking up the entire time. That's why I gave it a 4-star. It is not a book I'm going to recommend many people. It's not a book that I think is phenomenal. I had a good time. I thought it was funny, but I can see for you, obviously, because I mean, it tracks. You're more of a fantasy person, and the biggest thing in fantasy is plot.
Yeah.
This just particular series was meant to be unserious. I think our thought process was like the other series we've done were like a mix, and then we did the Devil's Night series, which was heavy on the plot. That the next thing we were going into was supposed to be
and I think that's what I was
less.
expecting. I was expecting the same like dark romance series, different guys, like cool. So I was expecting Devil's Night level plot. And so when he starts doing all of this dark stuff, I'm like, cool, we're going to get an explanation for whatever trauma he's endured that makes him react this way or do these things. And there was none of that. And I was like, whoa, why is he psycho? why is she not holding him accountable for these things now that she
Because we're
knows
silly
what's going on?
goofy.
Like, I know, but I did miss that message. And if I hadn't missed that message, maybe I wouldn't have hated it so much, but I wouldn't have rated it so poorly because I would have appreciated it maybe just for what it was. The same way I do Hallmark movies and Hallmarky books, you know? It is what it is. You
So
get
just,
what you signed up for, but I did
yes.
not
So
realize what I signed up for.
to preface to other people, if you're debating whether or not you want to read the book, or just to give you an idea of why it's a silly goofy, this is a quote, no spoiler in the quote, from the book, because we all know how much Rubik's loves quotes. I liked quotes
I
in this
love my
book.
quotes.
But this just tells you the vibe of the book perfectly. This is a quote from the MMC. It was kind of fun being completely crazy.
Yeah.
That right there should tell you the vibe. He
Yeah.
is a Delulu little baby, and I loved him because he was Delulu and aware. He was self-aware. You can't say he wasn't self-aware that he was nuts. But
No.
yeah, it's not intended to be a great novel. It's intended to be silly, goofy fun, which
Yeah.
we
It just
found it
felt
to be.
disjointed because
Yeah,
I was looking for the explanation. Because I was looking for that explanation of like, because he was like, this is what I have to do. Like everything was driven, like he felt like he had to do it. But it's like, okay, but why do you feel like you have to do it? Because normally with a good like thriller plot or with somebody that's obsessive, there's a reason why they feel like they have to do those things.
right.
And
And that
there
just
was no
wasn't what this book
explanation for
was.
that. Right. And I
Which
was
is
just
what I kept
like,
trying to tell you as you were reading it, but I think you were so angry at that point that you were not listening or caring anymore. You were like
no.
so angry that
But
I
it was
couldn't
because I
get
also
through
feel
to
like
you.
she set us up for that kind of explanation. Like the
That's what
interactions and stuff with his dad, like I
yeah,
really felt like we were going to get some kind of explanation and it just never happened. And
that's
that
what I was
was
trying to express to you of like you're not a dark romance reader in the sense that you just don't know the genre, the subgenre as well as like I do. I read a ton of it. So
mhm,
I kind of explained this to you in an earlier recording where dark romance really has like it is a subgenre, but there's really two sides to it. There's the dark romance that is like legit, there's plot, there's psychological like reasons why they're doing these things.
mhm,
And then there's the other side that's really just intended to be like taking these scenarios that in real life are fucking scary for women or are fucked up, but making them in a controlled setting to change the narrative, to give an escape to some of these things that are in real life are fucked up. But the point of that side of the dark romance is it makes it silly goofy, there's control to it. They're not as serious for the escape of it.
mhm.
And I think you have discovered at this point you should probably avoid that side and you should probably go to the other side for dark romance if you're
Yeah,
looking
or at
for
least know what I'm going
something
into.
enjoyable.
Like that's something that I'm going to have to go into like the same way I go into the Hallmarky books like I did for Christmas. All the
Are you
Christmas
reading the
books.
second one with us?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Now
can't
knowing because you've
DNF.
met the character, we've met the MMC for the second book, and you kind
Mhm.
of now know what you're going into.
Yes.
That it's silly,
Yeah.
goofy, Delulu, smut.
Yeah. And
Okay.
I'm probably let me just
I
warn
feel
you.
like you're
Just
gonna like this
accept
next
this
one.
now.
A 2.5.
I'm not going to like it anymore, but I won't be as mean about it.
I have heard
I
that
can
they
promise I
got
won't
better
be as
each
mean about it.
book. They get longer and better each book, so in theory, eventually we could get to one that's a little more focused on plot
Yeah.
instead of just throwing in plot things. I think I've read that they do as she, because I think the first one was her first ever book, and it was like indie published. There was no editors and stuff. As it goes on, I think it gets more fine tuned. I mean, we're gonna find out because it's our buddy read for the next 4 months. But
I just realized a very clear-cut way on how to explain to you why I got so angry. You know how you
I mean,
feel.
everything.
Well, you know how you and Kaylee feel about Powerless,
Mm-hmm.
about that series, how it's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, it's right there. They need to just do it.
Yes.
That is how I felt with the plot. All the makings of the plot were right there. Like, just give it to me already. And she never did. And
That's a great comparison.
that's so mean. Like, why are you going to just dangle it in front of me? Hey, you could have this, but nope, you don't get it. And I'm like, why?
Forever will go down though as the meanest rating you've ever given.
Yeah. I would be shocked if I found one that made me more angry. I'm not
I'll
going to
be
say it
worried
won't
for
happen
whoever that
because
writer is, honestly.
And that's the thing.
TBR.
I feel so bad. I feel so bad rating something poorly that somebody worked hard to create and put out there for everybody.
Oh yeah, not only did you give it a bad rating, you gave it like a 5-paragraph essay of why it sucked. You went in. I feel like there was a combination of you were in a mood with things in life, and then this book upset you, and then they came together and created that.
It really wasn't
You.
though. Like, I mean, I was in a mood, but it really wasn't the mood at all because I was fine reading it at the beginning. It was just in the middle when I realized there was no plot. I kept hoping
Mm-hmm.
maybe she's just trying to pull an SJM, and just like get me in the last 100 pages or something. And it
No.
just never happened. And I felt so like
Now you know for the
it was
fucking
like
wrong
blue
guy.
balls for plot. Like,
Well, he didn't have blue balls.
no, he didn't.
You'll just know now for the fucking wrong guy that you're here for a silly, goofy time.
Yes. So now that that's out of the way,
Yes, you spoke your piece about it.
what was your most disappointing read?
It was my Pucking Crush, which was my audiobook that I was really excited about because it was
That's not in this series though, right? It's a
no,
different book?
This is a different hockey dark romance.
I mean, the pucking is right there. Like, I'm not surprised that more than one person did that, but I was like, wait a minute.
Can we talk about how 3 of my books this month had the word puck or pucking in it? 3 of the 22. 3. That's a pretty high number.
Yeah.
But so my Pucking Crush was a dark mafia hockey book, which was already too many things happening at one time. However, I went in this for the audiobook. I knew nothing about this author. I'm pretty sure it was Tori Chase's first book. I knew nothing about it other than the audiobook was my 2 favorite male narrators, Teddy Hamilton and Joe Arden, and it was dual POV, and they were talking to each other. They were doing the whole duet thing within the narration.
Oh, I love it.
The narration, perfect. The book,
Garbage.
a mess. I still gave it 3 stars because it was still fun. It was an interesting experience because I've never read all of those things together at the same time. I think my biggest issue was it was a little insta-lovey, and I hate insta-love. Audiobook was great, guys. I loved it. I had a great time with
Pucking Wrong Number was insta-love?
It was. That was the point of it. I knew going into that one it was, though. There's like, if you look at the tropes.
How come you didn't hate that about that book?
I knew.
What was it that saved it for you?
I knew it was happening going into it. I didn't know that my Pucking Crush was going to be, and it's not tagged as like an insta-love kind of book.
Got it. Okay.
And I guess in theory you could say it's not, but the issue I think for me was in the Pucking Wrong Number, it's insta-love because they're like in love within 2 weeks of knowing each other.
Yeah.
In my Pucking Crush, technically it's a couple of months of knowing each other kind of thing. However, it's not like we're told in chapters how long it's been. It's like, here's chapter 1, it's this date. Then the next chapter, it's a month later and they're in love. But there was no build up from here to here for when there was like a love connection.
Okay.
So I think that was my biggest issue with it is it's like, where was the meat inside? I got the sandwich of meeting and then the sandwich end of like being in love, but there was no meat to them falling in love. And then I got a lot of other stuff that I loved. I just felt like the falling in love
was missing.
Yeah, everything else I did enjoy. That's why this one was still a 3.25 as well as like Puck Shy was. I could have used a little more substance in the love story. The audiobook was great though. The audiobook was 5-star. Loved it. I love duet narration and I love those men. So that part was fun.
That's fun.
The story was a little questionable.
Yeah. My most disappointing one.
Disappointing because you thought you were going to like it or you wanted to like it and then you didn't like it. So you can't say the last one.
Because it disappointed me. It's not the Pucking Wrong Number.
Okay.
My most disappointing one was...
When you do these pauses, it makes me feel like you're like easing me into that you're about to upset me. So I'm
No. This has nothing to do with you. No, you're fine. You haven't read this.
Sometimes you do these slow buildups and I'm like, oh God, what is she about to say?
No. It's mostly just me thinking how I'm going to say it. My most disappointing read was the last book in the Bonds That Tie series. Unbroken Bonds.
I'm telling Tish. Oh, wait. I
I've
think she already
already
knows.
told
I was
Tish.
going to say, wait, she already knows. Never mind.
I already told Tish, and she completely agreed with me on what I said that disappointed me. So I have no qualms with Tish. Like,
See, that makes me nervous
she
because that's
gets
a
me.
6-book series, and I do intend to read that soon. I
Yeah.
was contemplating just doing all 6 books for Pride Month, but y'all, you're making me nervous with that last book being so disappointing because she doesn't think it's as disappointing, but she agrees
She
that
agrees
yeah.
with me on what was disappointing. It may not
Mhm.
have been as disappointing to her, and that's fine. It just disappointed me because I was waiting for it. I was
Mhm.
waiting for the end of this story that we've been building up to for 6 books.
Mhm.
And the way it ended wasn't necessarily bad. It was just that it was so fast. It was like, what?
Yeah,
You know
I
what
can't
I
stand
mean?
that. Sometimes oh, I just
It
had
was
a book
like
that I
when
wanted
they
to
say, like,
visit.
hey, if you do these things, you earn all these points and you earn like 5,000, 8,000 points, some ridiculous number. And then they're like, here's your reward. It's a $2 gift card to Starbucks or something. Like, it's like, that's what I get. That's it. Like, are you kidding me? I thought I was in for something bigger, that there would be a bigger payoff to everything that these characters were going through.
Mhm.
And it fell so flat for me that it really disappointed me, to the point where, like, there's not a lot that came after that moment, but everything that came after that moment, I was just rolling my eyes. Like I think afterwards some of the characters are like, so what are we going to do today? And I'm like, okay, Pinky in the Brain. Like, I was over it. It was the most disappointment I think I've had in any of the books that I've read so far, because I was just like, oh, that could have been so
Ouch.
good. It could have been so good.
Wow,
And
you
it
were
just
angry at a lot of books this month. You read a lot about grief and you were a little angry at some books this month. I'm seeing the theme here.
yeah, it really is. When you set me up for something, I'm here for it. But then if you set me up for it and you don't give it to me,
Mhm.
it's like, that's just rude. You know?
Yeah.
Like, it's just rude. But yeah, that was my most disappointing book. So what was your biggest, like, laugh out loud moment? Something in the book actually made you laugh hard.
I have 2.
Okay.
I'll do the one that you won't know because you didn't read it and you won't fully grasp because you haven't read anything in this series. So, The Charlie Method by Elle Kennedy just came out, and it's the
Mm-hmm.
conclusion to the Off Campus Diaries.
Mm-hmm.
There was a sentence said by a character from the Briar U series, which is the first generation. Or so there's the Off Campus, which is the first series, then there's Briar U, and then there's the Campus Diaries, which is the one that I was finishing out with Charlie Method. The characters from the first 2 series are the parents of the college students in the Campus Diaries.
Mm-hmm.
One of the guys from Briar U didn't get his own book, but we like saw his relationship developing through the 4 books in that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just the funniest thing that I actually started crying, laughing so loud that I text Mel and I was like, I need to share this with you because she was reading it too. And I was like, and it's not a spoiler, but I just need to share it with you so that like when it comes, you can like bring it back to my attention. We can laugh again. This guy is talking about his love story with his wife, which again, we read about in the Briar U series. And
Right.
it was just started with, so some people would say that Rupi stalked me. And then like and like goes into the next chapter. I start cracking up though, because if you ever read Briar U or anyone who has, you'll get it. The fact he starts with some people may say, some, all of them, Michael.
Everybody.
Everybody said that girl stalked
Everybody's
you.
saying that.
It was like I was laughing so hard because he's so delusional. He's like one of those like golden retrievers who've maybe walked into a tree a couple of times, so there's some screws loose, golden
Mm-hmm.
retriever.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fact that he just opened with some people would say, so, Michael, be so for real right now. So that one I was cracking up. The other one was from Scythe and Sparrow. Without a spoiler, I'll just say anytime an eyeball and Rose are in the same sentence,
Sentence. Yeah. Yeah.
lost my mind.
Yep.
Could not stop laugh. Worst serial killer. Love you, Rose, so much. Anytime Rose and an eyeball are in the same scene, I lost it.
Yep.
What was your LOL?
I don't know.
I mean, I would hope we share Rose as an LOL.
I mean, yeah, I definitely laughed several times in Scythe and Sparrow. I mean, so that's the book, right? That I laughed in is going to be Scythe and Sparrow.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of if I can remember the actual moment. I know one of them was because of the clown costume. I knew Mel was reading this, and I was just like, she's gonna hate that.
Mm-hmm. I thought the same thing.
Yeah, I think the Nightingale made me laugh a little bit too because
That's shocking.
I know it was a
Everyone
very
I see
sad
reading
book.
that sob.
But see, the structure of it was kind of like the Titanic movie, right? How you have older Rose at the beginning, and then it's like her flashbacks, but like periodically, like it's grandma, you know? It's the grandma. He's like, "Are you gonna listen to me tell my story or what?" Like she just makes these little snarky little bits to her grandson. And she's remembering all of this stuff that happened to her. That's the actual story. And he does not know any of it. So it's just like kind of funny. Like there were a couple of funny moments where I laughed because it was
Mm-hmm.
funny. But yeah, I mean, I guess my named LOL moment is just going to be like pretty much all of Scythe and Sparrow. I
Yeah.
was laughing through that whole book. It was
Great.
so good.
Great finale to that trilogy.
Oh yeah.
I was cracking up.
And I think the biggest one was yeah. Okay, my biggest moment in Scythe and Sparrow that I laughed the most was probably in the beginning and the trigger warnings where she's like, for those of y'all that hate epilogues, I'm like, didn't we just do an episode talking about this? How much we hate epilogues.
I love
and
that
she's
she
like,
promised us that. She's like, I swear there's no engagement, pregnancy, or babies.
Exactly.
Thank you, Bryn.
I'm like, oh, thank you. And she's like, just trust me. Just read it.
She's one of us. She's truly was like, she's one of the people. Like, stop giving me these cookie cutter epilogues. And she did not. She served.
She served. It was great.
Thank you, Bryn Weaver.
Yes, thank you, Bryn Weaver. You're amazing and we love you so much.
Yes.
But yeah, I liked that a lot. That was probably my biggest LOL was in the trigger warnings when she says, I know epilogues suck, but I promise these specific things that we just talked about hating are not in there.
Yep.
Just read it. Trust me.
You will not regret it. And I did not.
Did not. Did you have any moments where you wanted to throw your Kindle across the room or your phone or headphones?
Mm-hmm.
Which one?
Yes, but not in the way you would think.
Okay.
So I had, again, two for different reasons. So the one that was like a throw across the room because I was like, I'm done with this and I'm frustrated. I still really, really liked the book. Like it's a 4.25. It's Addicted to You, which was the book I told you was about addicts. There was some shit that was hitting too close to home at some points that I was like, I can't. It was the book that took me the longest to read this month. It took me 5 days to read this book. It's not even that long, but there was just so many things that were too close to home that I was like, get away from me. I can't read you anymore. You're triggering the shit out of me in a way that's not how I've been triggered before. It was like an experience of like knowing how some things happened before I am who I am now. I just want to shake someone in this book and be like, ugh. But obviously, like, if they were just cured, then there wouldn't be a series. So I'm going to have to go through this for this character. So that was one. The other one was in a different way where I was like, why am I doing this to myself again? I read Queen Charlotte and I'm debating. It's like, it's been out a while, right? So it's not like the show I can truly spoil. It's been out a while.
Yeah.
You know the scene in the show when it's Charlotte, the now Charlotte and George, and she goes under the bed and she says, come with me. And they have that moment under the bed.
Oh, yes.
Reading that moment, I was like weeping because the book is so good because it matches obviously the show, but then it made me think of that moment in the show and I was weeping and I threw my Kindle and I remember thinking like, I knew what I was getting into. This is identical to the show.
Yeah.
And I'm still a mess. It was so good.
That scene made me cry in Queen Charlotte so much just because like
the way they're under there is insane.
The way it was shot where like it's the older ones and then
And
it's
then
the
they look
younger
and it's the
ones.
younger
And I
ones.
oh my God,
The
like
way
my
it was
heart,
shot and then, like,
my
the
heart.
reading it, oh, it was so powerful, and I
Yes.
knew it was coming. I knew. And it still was like, ugh. So, those are my 2 for
Mhm.
different reasons, but I
Totally fair.
recall being on my bed and, like, chucking it to the side of my bed that I don't normally lay on and being like, "You're in timeout. What did you just do to me? Stay over there."
Yeah.
Did you have a chucking the headphones
Um,
moment? Kindle moment?
I did.
Oh,
I had 2, okay? The first one that I had was I read well, the first one that I had was when I read The Bonds That Tie.
no.
The
Mhm.
thing that let me down that happened too quickly made me throw my headphones
Yeah.
and my phone onto my couch because I was
You're in timeout.
like, screw this. I
Mhm.
feel so just let down. I was so let down. The other one that made me throw my headphones was I read The Last One at the Wedding by Jason Rekulek. That's the one that did Hidden Pictures, which I read
Oh, yeah.
in October.
Mhm.
That book was interesting. It
Okay.
was like kind of thriller mystery, you know?
Mhm.
And I had predicted it. And like, I felt like the book was gaslighting me, leading me
Mhm.
into a whole bunch of other directions about who the culprit was, kind of thing.
Mhm.
And when it was found out, the way it was like, yes, my prediction was correct, but it was worse than what I had thought.
Mhm.
And I was just like, ah, I knew it. And it was worse. And I just threw my stuff because I was like, "Blah!" Yeah, I kind of exploded a little bit.
See, that's why thriller makes me nervous.
No, I think that actually that is a very like low level, like, because it's not scary. You know what I
Well,
mean?
see,
Like
this
it's
no,
not scary
it's not the scary.
circumstances.
It's like what I told you when I found that meme that I was like, "Oh my god, this is me. I am a passenger princess reader. I
Yeah.
don't care. I'm not making a single damn prediction. I might read along and be like, "Oh, this might be happening," but I really am not that invested and I don't care. I'm here for vibes. I'm not
Hmm.
predicting anything. So it makes me nervous with thrillers sometimes because I'm like, am I going to appreciate the art of a thriller because I'm not going to try and unmask whatever is happening?
Yeah. No, I
That's why
really
I think the
I really
vibe
do
of
want you to
thriller.
read it
I
because
mean,
it's a little more in depth than what you think you are going in for. You know what I mean?
see, I just I don't I need you to read the thriller that I read and feel the vibes out of that. That's the thriller like vibe I want to
Which
go
one did
down.
you read? Because I know
Okay.
you finally read a thriller.
I did. I
So
not only
proud.
crushed my 22 out of 23 of my TBR, I crushed even more off of my book resolution. I'm going in strong for 2025. So
Doing great.
I read 5 books off the Rena Kent verse. I think I only have less than 10 left now.
Mhm,
Of
mhm.
the 34 books she has, I have less than 10 now. And then I crossed off like 4 or 5 physical TBR books. And then I crossed off the full thing. I was going to read one thriller this year and I did. I read When She Returned by Lucinda Berry, which is a woman's been missing for X amount of years and she's randomly found at a 7-Eleven gas station parking lot with a
Right.
newborn baby. And then
Oh
it's
my
kind of like
god.
this story basically of where the fuck was she? And then so it's like dual timeline of like before she went missing, what happened to her while she was missing, and then the aftermath of her being home and like she comes home to her husband who's remarried and her daughter who is now 16 but like doesn't remember her because obviously she went missing when she was really little, and there's like cult involvement which is like right up my alley. I love things with cults. So it was a really really good read, but there wasn't anything in it that I was like you needed to solve anything essentially because it like while they were trying to uncover the crime of, like, trying to figure out what happened to her, it wasn't like I had to do it, like, they were slowly, like, feeding me the investigation of while she was gone, and then she's like, because 'cause you're getting different points of view, so she's feeding what was going on with her, and it was just an interesting read in the sense of, like, Lucinda Berry is a psychologist, and the way she writes it is so on the ball for like if you watch interviews of people who are under like Charles Manson, like just the science behind that is so interesting to me to read than in a book. So like that's the kind of like thriller vibe I want. I don't want to have to solve anything. I don't want to figure out a who done it. I just want to be along for the ride. I want to be a passenger princess.
I still think that you would like. See, I don't know. I don't know if you would like the story, but for the thriller aspect, I still think that that would be a good thriller for you because you are along for the ride. Like you are not the one that's figuring it out. You're along for the ride of the main character figuring it out, and all the information
Yeah.
is being
My
fed to
process
you.
of figuring stuff out is I am the main character. When they find
Right.
it out, I find it out. Like we're a tag
Right.
team. When
Yes.
you know, I know. Like I'm not doing
Yes.
any extra work.
Yeah. But it's not, the story doesn't end once they figure it out. Then it's like the aftermath about what's going to happen to that person because now they know things.
Okay.
So it's interesting. But yeah, I think you would like that one. Did you have any icks?
Okay. What if it was an ick at first and then it wasn't an ick anymore?
If you're going to say Heartless Hunter, I'm going to punch you in the face for that not being an ick anymore. It is an ick. That is gross. It's gross, Taylor.
Okay, so here's the thing.
I am the most like, hey, it's just your body, whatever. But that shit is gross. Okay.
But it was kind of genius.
It is genius. It is absolutely
And that's why
like,
it
it's
was
a
an
brilliant
ick
way of doing it.
Like the way that she just like delivered it to us was very like like whoa, hold on, rewind it back, repeat that. What did you just say? Isn't that jar? So
I mean, you
Heartless
saw
Hunter
my
was our
text
Bud
message,
Reed.
right?
Yes.
Did you go back and see
I
and
did.
realize what I was saying?
That's why I responded and I said, so I'm at 10%. I'm just gonna take a wild guess. Is the ew this thing?
Yes.
I don't want to say it because I want people to read. I know I've had people text since I finished it and they saw it on my thing that they were like, is it worth the read? Because I gave it a 4.75 and I fucking loved it.
Damn.
Kaylee did too. That's why we keep telling you to give us live updates because we're like, no pressure, but we both really liked this book.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say what it is because I want other people to form their own opinions. But at first, seeing that sentence,
I guess it would be wrong to say we want it to be organic.
It's organic. But at first, reading that sentence, I was icked out. And I was very like, oh no. And then it got brought up again. And I was still like, yeah, I'm having a hard time getting past this. And
I was having a really hard time getting past it. I had to put the book down because I was like, I need a minute.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
That's how I was at first. But then I kind of just started thinking about how it ties in with the plot and it tied in with some other things.
Yeah.
And it stopped being ick. And I was like, it's a survival tactic. It's genius. And it wasn't that icky to me anymore. I kind of just got over it.
Right now it is still an ick to me. Every time it's mentioned, I'm just like, ugh.
I think at first, yeah. But then the genius behind it. And I think it just casually keeps coming up where I'm like, it's almost like it got brought up enough where I was like, all right, I'm over it. I don't care anymore. Like
desensitized.
Yeah, essentially. Like it wasn't even an ick. It was disgusting.
Yeah.
At first. And then I didn't really care. And it became genius and I was enjoying it and I was all here for it. That I think would be my like ick. Is that also your ick?
Yes. 100%.
Was that why you thought of that question? You just wanted to see?
No, I mean, I was actually like, I didn't know if maybe it was going to be something else, but I was actually like, because I was thinking I was going to have icks with different aspects of romances and stuff. But no, that was my ick.
And it was in a fantasy. The fantasy gave us the ick this month.
You know, fantasy does always exceed my expectations.
Yeah.
I didn't think it would be that way.
Then I've never seen that ever. I
haven't either.
I've never watched anything. I have nothing. That is
and I will
first
say
time I've ever seen
I
that.
don't
and
know
I'm like,
why.
You know what? Bonus points that it was unique.
Yeah, and then after realizing it, I'm like, I don't know why this hasn't been done before.
That's what I was thinking afterwards too. I was like, wait, you know what?
It seems like pretty like it's right there.
It's
like
genius. Why has this not come up before in anything that I've read within like this spectrum of magic? It's insane that hasn't come up before, which I think is why it was such a like at first reading it. But now I'm like, you know what? If I read it again, I am prepared. Ick who, not I. I'm grown.
What was your biggest woo Like in any way, like giggling, kicking your feet kind of woo, or like, hell yeah, like whatever it is. But what was your biggest, basically the opposite of an ick?
You know what's funny? It's going to be from the same book. It's going to be Heartless Hunter again.
Really?
Yeah, I really like the book.
Don't tell me
I
what it is though.
No, it's fine. You're far enough in it that like it's not. I really like the dynamic in Heartless Hunter because I think it's the first time I've ever read something where there's not really a clear winner, and I like have bad feelings about not preferring one over the other at certain
Yeah.
point. Like it's my woo because it's the first time I've read a love triangle where there's no clear winner and I'm not that mad depending on who. Like it's the
Yeah.
one of the more intriguing love triangles I've ever read.
Yeah. I don't have a preference at this point either. And that was the funny thing because when you put that text and you were like, I'm this far in and I think she's going to go for this one. And I was like, I
Yeah.
actually don't have a problem with either of them. Like,
I think because I had only been like 4% in, but how they were describing the first 4% is like the childhood best friend, his douchebag older brother. So I was like, well,
right.
clearly the douchebag older brother is where all like the tension romance is going to come from. So you're
Mhm.
going to like the childhood friends to
Right.
lovers one. But then the more I was reading it, I was like, wait a minute. I also like the childhood friend to lover, but I do like the
Yes.
douchebag, the brute. I'm
Yeah.
like, dang it. I like them both.
Honestly, they're both great. I don't have a problem with either one of them.
Yeah. And I
And
do.
what I love is that even though one of them is clearly supposed to be like the enemies to lover, right?
Yeah.
Because there's an actual dynamic where like only one of them will complete their mission kind of thing.
Yes. No,
You
this
know,
and that's like this
it
is
is
like
very conflicting.
the enemies to lovers that I want. It is so good.
But even though he's like a D bag, he's not a D bag
Respectfully.
necessarily to her.
Yeah.
Like he's
But
not
it's like
doing
he is, but
anything
he isn't.
right. Like he's not our favorite, right? Because we love her
Yes.
and he's completely against everything she's trying to do. So like
Mhm.
that's the only reason why he's a D-bag though. He's not
Their
doing anything to
banter is
her.
so
Their
good.
banter is
It's
amazing.
so good.
It's like the
The
level of
game,
powerless almost.
it is like I would almost argue it's better because in Powerless they are just enemies. In
Yeah.
this, there's like a game to it, a very like cat and mouse, but they both think they're the cat and the other one's the mouse. But it's
Yep.
like depending on what is going on at that given moment, they rotate who's the cat and the mouse. Like it
Yeah.
is this really fun fucking mind game that they're
It's
playing with
really
each
fun.
other, and I love it. But I really like the childhood friend. So
I
it's like
know.
so that's
I
my woo is I'm
know.
like, "Wait, I'm, like, really invested." So that's my woo.
It's like everything that the perfect book boyfriend they're both
They
doing.
both have it, yeah.
They're like they are the two sides of the perfect book boyfriend.
Oh, and I'd say put them together and make the best, but, like, they're brothers, so it's like, in theory, they could be capable of,
I
like,
choose? I mean,
oh,
I don't know if it's a spoiler or
all
not. So
her
if it
needs to
is,
be
I
met.
will take it out. But my favorite moment so far is where she's like doing the whole like, well, but he could be saying that because he thinks I'm doing this
Yes,
because I
the
think he's doing
spiral
that.
talks,
Like,
that's what I'm saying, like,
it's so
at
good.
any given moment, they both think they're the cat, but they are the mouse. Like,
Yes.
the weird internal dialogues of, like, she's flirting with me because she likes me, but is she flirting because she wants me to think that she likes me, but she's like she's just like
She's trying to
this
catch me. Yes.
spiral.
It's so good.
They're so good. So
It's
that's my
so,
woo
so
because
good.
it's like I'm in it. I
Yeah.
ran to the second book and you know I'm a buffer. Like I put shit in
Uh-huh.
between my series. I was
Aren't you
not
happy I made
anticipating
you
liking it
wait?
so much. Here's the thing, even if I had waited, like I have no problem waiting between like Powerless, Fearless, or Powerless,
Yeah.
Reckless, Fearless. I don't care. I really like it.
Yeah.
This one, however,
Aren't you glad that you
ran
had to
to the
wait?
next one. Well, I guess in theory, yes, because the second one technically didn't come out until a couple weeks
Mhm.
ago.
Yep.
So waiting then meant that the second one was available. Oh, I finished Heartless Hunter at like 9 p.m., started Rebel Witch at 9 a.m.
Hell yeah.
because I had to go into
That's what
this
we'd
one
like to
immediately.
see.
Ugh, I had to go into it. So I was like texting Kaylee and I woke myself up because I had a rough idea of when she was going to finish the book and I needed her live reaction to the end. So I like woke myself up around like
Oh
12:30
no.
last night because I was like, I need Kaylee's live reactions, and I got them. And we were both like, so when are we starting Rebel Witch?
Right.
Did you give a
Yeah.
woo?
I don't think I did this
Okay,
month.
that's
Not any
fair.
of that stand out.
No, you did read a lot of heartbreak this month.
I read a
So,
lot of heartbreak this month. I read a lot of heartbreak. I read a lot of turmoil.
mhm,
I read a lot of hostility.
mhm.
I
You did do
didn't
that.
get my woohoo moment. But I will say I really do like Heartless Hunter. I'm not done with it yet, so I'm going to count it as like, 19 and a half that
Yeah,
I've read this month.
that's
But
fair.
yeah, I don't have a clear-cut woo moment yet.
So before we get into March TBR,
Yeah,
can I tell you the thing that I've been
tell me
hiding
the
from,
thing.
or not hiding, I made it aware. If you recall, I used Fable's AI to pick a book for me this month.
Uh-huh.
It was In the Middle of Somewhere by Rowan Parrish, which was
Uh-huh.
their debut novel.
Uh-huh.
It was so fucking good, and it did such a good job picking out a book for me. I was so
Yeah.
impressed with it. This book I've never seen this book anywhere. It was not on my TBR. It had randomly formulated and picked a book out of all the like books that I threw into it for like the
Mm-hmm.
formula, and it just spit this book out at me. I finished it in like a day and a half. I loved it so much. The next two books in the series are on my March TBR because it's
Nice.
like a trilogy. There's like a couple of novellas for side characters if you want to read them, which I might eventually,
Mm-hmm.
but it was so good. It had the vibe of, if you remember in January, I read To Catch a Firefly, which was the MM about they're in Nebraska and one of the guys is autistic. So it
Uh-huh.
was a very like nothing crazy, just like a really sweet romance.
Uh-huh.
This one was the same vibe. So I'm like, I wonder if they just like heavily went on To Catch a Firefly and were like, if you like this, read this. Because this one is it's like a guy from Philly who gets a job in a college in a small town in like Minnesota,
Uh-huh.
and he meets the town handyman, and they just have this very sweet love story. Again, nothing crazy happened. It was just this very normal relationship with normal self-esteem issues,
Mm-hmm.
and it was so good. At first, I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be in the mood for this because I just did a sweet romance in January.
Right.
Nope, it was so good. I loved it. So
That's
thank you.
awesome.
Thank you, Fable AI. You did a great job, and I'm probably going to try and use it again.
I wonder how it would be to like use that for one book on our TBR each month.
I mean, it went well for me. I loved it. I'm nervous because I'm like, it did so well the first time that like, what if I do it again and then like the next one's terrible and then I just never want to use it again? But
Yeah.
the first time out of the bag, the first time out of the bag, it did a great job. I loved it.
Yeah.
It was a really good book.
March.
Of
You've already done your TBR?
course I did. I finished this TBR in February like 20th. And then I slowly like add little things as people ask me to read stuff with them like the last week of February. But yeah,
Uh-huh.
my TBR is done.
All right, let's hear it. What's on it?
Okay. So I once again have a 23, technically 24 book TBR because I am finishing Antidote. It is the one that I missed from last month. It's been on the TBR since November. I'm 30%
I
in
know that I've put that image on our
since
little
November.
slideshows a couple
And
of
I
times.
fucking hate the cover of this book. So I'm like, I have to finish it because I
Ugly.
don't want to see it on our Instagram TBRs anymore. Because
Yeah.
I know it's a really like powerful emotional book because one of them's an addict. And of course, I'm just, setting myself up to be hurt again. But the cover is so ugly. And I just like that's part of my motivation is like, don't want it to be on my Instagram reels
Yeah.
anymore. So yes, Antidote is technically book 24 of my, but I'm sticking with this 23 book TBR because it seems to be going well for me. So I have Happy Place by Emily Henry. Because one of the book clubs I'm in, the theme is second chances or spring new beginnings kind of vibe.
Right.
And I know
Okay.
that Happy Place is a second chance romance with a dual time narrative. So it's like when they met, now that they're reacquainting and we're like slowly building the story of why they broke up kind of thing. So I have
Mm-hmm.
that. And I've read almost all of Emily Henry's books at this point. So I was like, I may as well just add another Emily Henry on there. And then like I have our group reads. So The Pucking Wrong Guy, The Rebel Witch, which I will for sure be finished with in the morning after we're done with recording. I'll probably go read a little bit more because I'm already 75% in. So that'll
Yeah.
be done soon. And then for my bingo, I had to read a book with the title being a name. So I'm going to read Circe, which is
Okay.
another Madeline Miller book. She wrote Song of Achilles. I don't know which one came
Okay.
first, but it's going to be the Greek mythology again. This one's not but it's still like that Greek mythology retelling. So I'm excited to read that because I loved Song of Achilles. And then I am just kind of like tackling that book resolution. So I have three books of Rena Kent to get on to more of her stuff. However, she has a new book coming out this month, and I'm immediately reading that one because I've been dying for this book. This was a book she told us she wasn't going to read. She was like, I'm done with this universe. We're going on to something new. And then when we're supposed to be getting announcements for the new book, she's like, you know what? You guys were right. There's one story that has to be told, and we're getting it, and it comes out at the end of March. And Tish and I have been screaming. Anytime Rena Kent has given us like little snippets, Easter eggs of it, we send it to each other, screaming. We're so excited because our favorite book she's ever written was God of Fury, as you know,
Yeah.
which is MM. We saw snippets of the couple in that book, and they're the ones who are now getting a book. And she's like, it's her darkest, most toxic book she's ever written.
Oh
It's
no.
also going to be MM. And I'm so excited for it because I know that my couple from God of Fury is going to be in it because they're cousins. One of the
Mhm.
M's from this one is cousins with one of the M's from the other one. So I'm
Mhm.
excited to see my favorite couple again. Then I have Forbidden Titan, which is another book, like novella hockey. Wow, I have a lot of hockey again. It's another dark hockey book. And then I'm going back to the Zodiac Academy because I did 3 books last month. I'm doing another 3 this month. And then I have a couple of like cutesies and a couple more emotionally sad. So I have, because it's March, we have St. Patty's Day. If you recall, this may be a gamble that I'm doing to myself, but if you recall, in October, I read a book that put me in a huge slump because it was not what I thought it was. The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah. Yep.
The sequel is coming out, and it's called Go Luck Yourself. It is
Okay.
the brother to the son of Santa, so it's his second son of Santa,
Mhm.
having a romance with the son of St. Patrick's Day. So I'm assuming a leprechaun, something, something. We didn't meet him in the first one, but we obviously met the other son of Santa. So it's Go Luck Yourself. So I'm in my head, I am better prepared this time to go back into that world.
Right.
And it's St. Patty's Day theme. So like perfect time to read it. So I have that. And then I was looking at my shelf and I was like, what else can I read that I own that's
Mhm.
cutesy because I have these emotional turmoil books? I have Forget Me Not by Julie Soto, who I love. And she has a book coming out in July that I'm making all of you read with me. Just so you know, it's fantasy.
Mhm.
She is a Dramini fanfic author who's being published, and it is a Dramini fanfic being rewritten to be a fantasy novel. And I'm
Mm.
so excited. I'm debating if you should read the fanfic before I have you read the book that's coming out because it's going to be a trilogy.
Okay.
And also, only the first book is coming out of the trilogy. It could take years before you get the whole story. I don't know. I'm debating. Okay, the auction was it's like I told you, the auction is like god tier fanfic. And then I'm gonna
That's
read
fair.
next of Kin, which is by Hannah Bonham Young, who wrote Out on a Limb.
Mhm.
Because again, cutesy. I know I like her. I'm gonna finish a duology that I started in 2023. Don't judge me. Called The Husband Material. I have owned that book for so long and I just never finished the duology. And I'm gonna do it. Because again, I'm crushing my physical TBR list.
Yep.
And then I'm buddy reading something with Mel called My Fault, which I kept seeing in Target. And then I thought I had saw something on TikTok about it. And I was like, no, that doesn't sound right. Then she sent me a text and she's like, I want to watch this movie. But in order to watch this movie, we have to read the book. And it then dawned on me that it's an Amazon Prime Wattpad like combo production company. So I'm like, oh,
Oh.
okay, I'm down because I'm a sucker for Wattpad productions. They're never great,
Right.
but I am a sucker for it's like watching trash TV.
Yeah.
It's addicting. So I'm down. I'll read it. So we're reading My Fault, and then I might be in trouble. I'm going to read Ricochet, which is the second book from the Addicted Calloway series, which was the one that made me
Right.
throw my Kindle in the first one. And then I'm going to read Still Beating by Jennifer Hartman.
I
know the
am
trigger
so
warnings.
upset.
Why?
But I also feel validated because when you were saying that, like, I was going to pick a group read for all of
Yeah.
us,
Yeah.
that was what I was going to pick.
Okay, then read it with me. We'll be the group, just you and me.
Ah,
I
now
don't
I got
know.
to make sure I could find it because I didn't actually look for it, but I was looking through different books and I was like, this actually looks like it might cross off a lot of boxes for a lot of people.
It's going to emotionally wreck us.
I know.
So I have seen people read this book, and it's one of those ones where it's like, it's life changing. It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
We'll never read it again. In the same sense where I'm never
Yeah.
reading A Thousand Broken Pieces again.
Yeah.
Like, it has a 4.42 rating on Goodreads.
Huge.
Huge. However, this is the thing that scares me. And again, I know what the triggers are. If you were thinking about reading Still Beating because you've seen how popular it is on TikTok, read the trigger warning list because this is a dark book. Just like the intro of it, warning, this book contains subject matter that may be extremely sensitive to some readers. There is dark and triggering content between these pages, 18 plus only. Please read responsibly. Again, I know the triggers. I know I'm going to cry. I think this is going to be one that I might save towards the end of the month because we're going to be buddy reading The Pucking Wrong Guy at the end of the month. So I'm like, I might save it where I know that I'm going to read something Delulu that might bring me out of a slump that I think this book is going to put me in.
Right.
But this is one of those books that, like, I've been wanting to, I mean, according to my Goodreads, it has been on my marked as want to read since August of 2023. I have been putting it off because I am so scared. It's like A Little Life. I am putting that book off because I know it's going to emotionally destroy me and I'm scared. It's time to put on the big girl panties and I'm just going to read it. I've been thinking about it. I've been seeing other people talking about it because it's kind of getting like rejuvenated on the TikTok. I'm going to do it. I'm going to read it. I'm going to
You've
mentally
got
prepare
this.
myself, but I'm nervous.
You've got this.
I might need an emotional support squishmallow that I'm going to have to go steal out of my kid's bedroom and hug it the whole time, but I'm going to do it. And that's my TBR.
We don't have a buddy read planned for this month, you and I, do we?
You and I know.
Okay.
Because we have you, me, and Kaylee's planned out, and then we have the TBR titties planned out, but you and I, no.
Don't have one. Okay. I have
You want a buddy read Still Beating with me? Well, no, because technically I told you at the beginning of this podcast that in March needs to be your month where you don't cry.
Well,
We can
so
buddy read
about
Cersei
that.
together. Did you already go back on your word about not crying in March? A dry March, if you will?
Probably.
Oh,
So
that went fast.
I don't have my full TBR for the month yet because I'm working on redoing my wheels a little bit. Because I realized that there were a lot of things that I had as a series. I mean, my series wheel is packed.
Insane.
So I'm trying to split it up so that I have a wheel for series, a wheel for duologies, a wheel for trilogies, just to kind of like space it out a little bit. So I haven't finished that yet. That being said, so I already have 3 pretty beefy series that I'm reading this month. One of which is I am buddy reading The Hunger Games with Kaylee. And that's 5 books because we've got the original 3 Hunger Games. And then we have the prequel book, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. And you know, as soon as I finish those, I am totally going to watch all of the movies. Okay. Probably with my kids because that's one of the few like fantasy fiction things that Sugar absolutely loves. So I'm definitely watching those with her. I also am planning to do the Shadow Gods series, which is technically, I think, a trilogy. This is something I've had on my TBR for a long time because I saw it on, I think, an Instagram or a TikTok. And it was presented as if you love Skyrim.
Yes, I remember you talking about this. Okay.
Yes.
Your friend liked it? Your friend's husband?
Yeah. My husband's best friend.
Okay. I knew I was like, there's a line.
My husband's best friend, like, there's a lot of connections there. Like, he's also on Twitch, and like his wife and I, we're friends, and she reads. We talk about books a lot. So it's all connected. But yeah, he's the original connection is he is my husband's best friend. But he read it and he said he liked it, that it was really good. And it was presented as Skyrim. And I had never played any like first person role play, like melee kind of games. video game wise until Skyrim. And then I was so obsessed with Skyrim for years. I played every single storyline you could possibly play in Skyrim because I was obsessed with it. So I love Skyrim.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been wanting to play it again recently, and hubby got it for me recently on Switch so that I could play it in my hands. I'm so excited.
Oh, fancy.
I know. So now I'm kind of like, I kind of want to get the Shadow Gods trilogy and like play Skyrim on my Switch
immersed.
at the same time.
That is immersive.
Like right really there. In the world, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm excited about that. And from what I know, I don't think like this is like pure fantasy plot. I don't like think there's fantasy. I don't think there's any particular romances involved. Mm-hmm. At least that they're not at the forefront. Mm-hmm. It's not a romantasy. It is a fantasy with dragons, like real ass dragons. I'm excited about it. And I think it will be a nice, like, kind of palate cleanser for all the romance that I read this month. So it'll be nice. But yeah, that's 3 books.
So and then you're doing a romance detox by just going high fantasy.
A little bit. And then the last series that I have on my TBR is very hefty and probably one of the most waited for reads for me this year.
The way you're saying one of, it's the most.
It is the most. Fine. I was giving a little credit to maybe there's something else.
No.
I am finally going to read from start to finish the Harry Potter series. I've technically already started it, but I had to pause it because Heartless Hunter.
Which we approved of, so it was fine.
Yes, it was approved, so I'm fine. But yeah, I'm going to read the entire Harry Potter series in completion for the first time.
For the first time.
Uh-huh. Yep. Then I'm going to watch all those movies for sure.
As you should. Yes.
And then I think the only other thing I have that's not a buddy read officially, I saw it on Kaylee's TBR for the month and was like, this has been sitting on my TBR for a long time and I see it everywhere and I'm kind of anxious to just see if it's worth it. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to be reading Quicksilver this month.
I have been seeing it all over the place. And if I didn't have such a loaded TBR, I would also add that to mine. Yeah. And I'm so mad that she's doing it because it was going to be my suggestion for just July for our fantasy girlies like buddy read.
I get to pick July.
You say that like you haven't picked or been a part of the deeper part of picking the fantasy girlies ones. Heartless Hunter? I only knew about that series because of your duology because of you. And then Powerless, I think, was Kaylee.
It's July.
Well, yes, I know. For your
I get to pick.
Well, because for Fantasy Girlies, we're booked out. And we're booked out because March is the Rebel Witch.
See what you did there.
April, we're concluding out the trilogy for Powerless with Reckless. And then May is when the new Rachel Gillig book comes out, The Night and the Moths. Or The Moth and the Knights. I have to double check that. But the new Rachel Gillig book is May.
And we're definitely doing that because
we're 1,000%. And it's a duology. I don't know, of course, when the next one comes out, which is fine. We'll wait for that one. I will do anything for Rachel Gillig.
That's fine. Yeah, me too.
So okay, so maybe June. We don't have anything for June either. So we have to find, so June and July we'll have to figure out. But I was going to suggest Quicksilver for us to buddy read because I think its duology is coming. I think it's a duology or it might be a trilogy. But
I know at least it has another book that's
I know it. Out. Yeah, I know for sure there's another one, but I was going to suggest that for us to read.
See, and I was going to wait, but I'm just tired of waiting to see if it's worth it because I hear conflicting stories.
I hear wicked conflicting things about it. So that's why
it's crazy. And I'm just like, oh, I'm just going to read it and get it over with. And so I saw it on Kaylee's TBR and was like, all right, I'm just going to do it. Mm-hmm. So that's what I have so far. And then I have the buddy read for our TBR Titties group.
Listen, here's the thing.
Guy.
Wait. I know you're saying this with an eye roll, but you're reading a ton of fucking fantasy this month. That might be a good palate cleanser. As much as you want to like hate
probably
it,
will.
And yeah, you most likely are.
I'm also reading Harry Potter, Hunger Games, and basically Skyrim in books. So I also know that I'm going to have a very plot heavy TBR this month. So it might be a good palate cleanser for that too, because I don't imagine it's going to have much plot, if any.
No, it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be silly, goofy, smutty, dark romance.
Yeah.
You may want to pick like another book or two, like shorter book or two to put in between some of these series because you are going
Yes,
very heavy fantasy series.
I am.
And if
And
you're
I'm
going to start
planning
with
on it, but
Quicksilver,
I'm
because
going to use
Quicksilver I
my
think is
wheel.
beefy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big book. And I'm planning on putting a couple of other things in there just to kind of pad it out, but I'm going to use my wheel to do it, and so I just need to kind of like make sure my wheels are set
The
because I can't use the
standalone wheel,
series
right?
one. I need to do either the standalone wheel or I'm kind of thinking of actually having a non-fantasy wheel, like a specific non-fantasy. But I also have a wheel for classics. And I think
Oh
I
yeah,
might
speaking
have
of that,
decided, I think I might have decided which one I'm going to do.
which one?
To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yes! The way that I said, speaking of classics, because you've read everybody else's favorite book, and I have said many a times for the fans, God of Fury, I have favorites, but my number one favorite forever will forever be To Kill a Mockingbird. So I've
I
just
know.
been patiently waiting for my turn
I know.
in books that you read,
I
classic
know.
books that you
Well,
read.
it's also come up because I asked my oldest which books she wanted me to rebind for her birthday, and I told her I wouldn't get to it right away because I had other ones from Christmas that I had like started or promised to do that I needed to get
Mhm.
done first.
And
But
Her Crime and Punishment is beautiful.
her Crime and Punishment is beautiful, but the book that she chose was To Kill a Mockingbird.
I knew that I loved that little Capricorn with my entire being.
And look, I've
Smart
already
girl.
got it. So yes, I will be rebinding it soon. So I need to
Mhm.
read it so that I have like a really fresh perspective of what the book means to me so that I can make my cover design. So it's I think the one that's going to one of the ones I'm going to pad these things with. Also, I already know because I did read this forever ago. I
Mhm.
think I might have been in 6th grade when I read it.
Wow, y'all do some crazy shit down south. That's a
No,
deep
no.
book to read as a sixth grader.
No. Let me be clear. Starting in grade 8, I was homeschooled.
Yes.
When I was in school before that, I was the kid that was bored a lot. And I had an amazing grade 4 teacher that would have special books on the side for me to read. I
Mhm.
read a lot of Charles Dickens in 4th grade,
Mhm.
like Tale of Two Cities, 4th grade.
That's crazy.
I had just turned 10 and I was reading A Tale of Two Cities.
That's insane. The first time I read
Yes.
To Kill a Mockingbird, I was in eighth grade.
Yeah. But To Kill a Mockingbird was one of the books that I read on my own a lot earlier than a lot of kids my age because
Mhm.
I was bored and my teacher had a lot of really intense, like very prestigious classics
Mhm.
on her shelf for me.
Mhm.
So I did read this a long time ago. I want to say I was probably 12 or so when I read it. So it's been a long time. So I need to read it again to get like a fresh perspective. But I'm excited about it because this was also one of the movies, like the way that I am trying to get my kids to read books and then trying to encourage them reading the books at school is like, I'm like, hey, there's a movie. We'll watch it together when you're done reading it.
Mhm.
This was one of those for my mom and me. Uh, my mom found the movie for To Kill a Mockingbird, and it was
Mm.
one of the older movies,
Yeah, the
but
black and whites.
yes, my kids call them Granby's Gray movies, um,
I love it.
which I love that
They're
so
not
much.
wrong.
They're not wrong. They're Granby's Gray movies, but this was one of the books that I remember my mom saying, I'll watch the movie with you when you finish reading it. So
Mhm.
it's kind of nice there too, a little bit of nostalgia. But yeah, so I'm excited to read this one. But this is the only other thing so far that I've put on my list that are not like heavy series and then Quicksilver.
Mhm.
So I've got to finish padding out my wheels and separating them and getting them all,
You could do my second favorite classic,
which is,
Great Gatsby.
oh, that's on my list.
I have a
That's on my
I
wheel.
I have a list of tattoos that I want, and both of those books I want a tattoo for.
Really?
Mhm.
I love that.
Yeah, I've had them both planned out for a while. I just every time I was going to go do it, I was pregnant, so I couldn't. And now just money and time. So, but
Fair.
there are two tattoos from both of those books that I want.
I need to look at Still Beating if we're going to buddy read that. But if not, do you even have room on your TBR list for another buddy read?
No, but you can pull something off of my. You could read Next of Kin with me. It's the Hannah Bonham Young book, and we know we like her.
That's true. We do
'Cause
like
she's
her.
not like annoying romance. She's very like sweet, beautiful romance where it's not corny, cheesy.
Yeah, I mean, Out on a Limb was basically
And
knocked up, but not crass.
I may or may not know that it's available to borrow right now on your Libby app.
Is it?
Mhm.
Well,
And it's only
that's
like a 7
convenient.
or 8 hour audiobook. It's not long.
Oh, that's true.
I think it's the first book she ever wrote because Out on a Limb is like the 4th or 5th. This
Mm-hmm.
is from the next series, which came out before the Out on a Limb.
Okay.
And it's very short and it is available on your Libby to borrow right now.
Isn't that convenient?
I know. It's almost like I did my research before we started the podcast today.
Imagine.
It's so bizarre. I came prepared.
Yeah, I might. Let me look. This is definitely not going to be a no crying month.
Oh yeah, wait, the title of it's Next of Kin. I don't know what it's about. I just know it's Hannah Bonham Young, but it just dawned on me that the title is Next of Kin.
Yeah, you know when that's a thing? When somebody's died.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but like,
and grieving.
Hannah Bonham Young.
More grieving. More grieving, Taylor.
We could do Forget Me Not. That's like a second chance romance about a wedding planner and a guy who owns a flower shop, and it's also on your Libby. I'm just saying.
Is this what this is going to be like from now on? I know it's at your library and it's not on hold.
Yeah. For reference, Rubik's did a really kind thing today, but it also may have backfired on her immediately. Everyone in her family had to get library cards. One of her children doesn't like to read. So for right now, I am that child in the eyes of Libby because my state library is
I feel like this is something we shouldn't be talking about on a podcast.
No one has to know. It's fine.
Really. I mean, what do you mean no one has to know? We're putting it on a podcast.
Everybody commits Libby fraud. It's fine. But now I have this whole new world of things. But even before I was in it, I could see your library.
Mm-hmm.
So I know what you have. I know what's available. And now I know how to ask you to read things with me. Like, hey, Rubik's, this book is available to borrow right now for the next 21 days.
I just feel like I missed something when I agreed to this.
No, I specifically didn't say any of those details. I just said it was for me.
Oh, I know, but I should have thought of that.
Mm-hmm. That was on you.
Yeah, I'm pretty.
You have more children than me, and you have majority of them are girls. So really, I'm training you to think smarter here.
Yeah.
Think smarter, not harder.
It was a really great day though to go all of us together, just go to the library and then go to the park after for a little bit, have a good time. And yeah. And the kids are all excited. I've already got a couple of them set up with their cards on their own Libby apps. Like Chickpea, she's only 10, right? But she's now got her own library card on her own Libby app on her tablet.
I was so excited when we were talking about which book she should read next.
I know. She's very excited about it. So yeah, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. Sugar won't read anything.
No.
But that's okay because technically, I guess
I'm Sugar.
She is. Because you're reading her
Sugar's
stuff.
using her card real
funny.
well.
It was so funny because I mentioned it to hubby and he was like, why is Taylor using her card? And I was like,
because she's not
using it. So, I mean, she's just using it on Libby for when the stuff is not available on her library.
Yeah.
And he was like, Sugar's going to have a really interesting reading history.
I'm a little offended, but he's not wrong.
I'm like, why are you offended? We all know there is no like guise of you being a wholesome reader. Okay.
Okay, first of all, it's Libby, so calm down. There's nothing insane on Libby available. Thank you. Mm-hmm. But the only thing that I have saved so far are fluffy romances. Forget Me Not being one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's Libby, Mr. Husband. Calm down. I can't borrow anything intense on Libby. It's fine.
That's true.
Trying to throw me down under the bus. But I think it's cute because then I'm reading something for your youngest, Miss Chickpea, and we're going to watch our little movie together after.
I know. That's going to be so cute. I can't wait. That's going to be fun.
So I guess that's sort of on my March TBR.
Yes.
It's a very quick read, so it really is like novella-wise.
Let's hear about it real quick. Let's hear about it real quick.
I'm going to read A Little Princess for the Little Princess, Miss Chickpea.
Yes.
so I can be her favorite, or I can stronghold that I am the
I
favorite.
loved that book. It was such a cute book. It's written by the same author of The Secret Garden. It's a cute book. It is just it's cute. My favorite quote from that entire book. It's from like a whole little monologue that she says, but it is this little girl, like, look at you. You're not a princess. Look at you. And she just looks up and goes, I am a princess. All girls are. And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's so good.
That's so cute. I'm excited for March. I said this last time. I was really excited for February, and I loved almost every single book. The lowest thing I had was a 3.25. So I'm excited for March. I think, knock on wood, I think I'm gonna have another really good reading month. Not even just like numbers I'm gonna put out, more so of like I'm not gonna have any books that I dislike. I'm really excited for every book that I have on my TBR.
I still have a couple spots that I have to fill once I finish my wheels. But other than that, I'm pretty excited for everything on mine too.
I'm excited for
And
stuff on yours.
I mean, February was pretty good for me. I liked absolutely everything that I put on my list.
Wow. That was not at all a dig at anybody.
Just
Interesting.
saying.
Mm-hmm.
I did. I loved everything that I put on my list.
Mm-hmm. Just know that that's the last dig you are allowed when it comes to that book. We are closing the book
That's
on
fine.
the fucking wrong number.
That's fine. That's fine.
Oh God, I hope you like the fucking wrong guy a little bit more so it doesn't tumbleweed into something worse next month.
Wouldn't it be so funny if the pucking wrong guy ended up being like a 5-star read?
That's my thing. Is there's that secret part of me that's like, I hope that you go from a 1.75 to like a 4.75. Like there is that
It would
little
be
part of
so
me
funny.
that would be like, I hope you fucking love the next one. It doesn't even because we still got 4 more. I hope you love one of these so that way you can look back and see how mean you were in your review and be like, oh, I'm sorry.
I
You've
listen.
grown since that review.
Listen, I'm not going to say everything that I said because it's there on Fable. Go follow me on Fable if you want to read it.
It's an
I really
essay.
didn't think it was as I guess I didn't think it was as harsh as Taylor's making it sound. But here's the thing.
I didn't think it alone. We've had people text
I
us and be like,
It's true.
Rubik's, you good?
Yeah, it's true. But here's the thing. One thing I did say in that review is that I didn't have a problem with what was there. I had a problem being set up for a plot that never came to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
And that I felt like the author dropped the ball. And that was what upset me. And also, freaking Homeless Bill gets whatever stars I did give that book. Those are for Homeless Bill.
We're going to have to find you some more side characters to fall in love
Well,
with. So
hopefully there is a Homeless Bill type character in every single book because
imagine.
I don't regret reading that book because of Homeless Bill.
That's fair.
I mean, I was angry because I had been waiting for it. Just like we're waiting for something to actually happen in Powerless, you know? I'm waiting for it. And so just give it to me because I see it. I see it all right there. I see it. You're just an inch away. Just give it to me.
You're like,
so yeah, I was upset about it, but
with the dangling carrot and you're on the treadmill. But you can't
exactly. It's just what I need from a book. It was almost there and then it wasn't, but it could have been there, which is why it frustrated me so much.
You're like that Adele song,
Which
Rolling
one?
in the Deep.
We could have had it all. Dude, that's so accurate.
Have your heart and soul.
But yeah, that's done now. And now we're off to March.
To March. St. Patty's
May the luck
Day.
be with us.
Yeah. St. Patty's Day and International Women's Day. Woohoo.
Here's a fun question, actually, that I think would be fun to do whenever we do a monthly TBR.
Ooh, okay.
Which book of what you know, blindly even, what book on your TBR do you think you're going to like the most? Like, what do you foresee being your favorite read of the month?
Okay. I'm going to take Rebel Witch out because I'm almost done with it. And I already know that I love it, but I'm going to take it out because I'm almost done. And it feels unfair.
Right. That's fair.
I think it's going to be Still Beating. I think it's going to emotionally destroy me and I'm going to cry into my pillow. But I think it's going to be my favorite. Possibly Circe, because it's the Madeline Miller, the Greek mythology, and I'm just a sucker for Greek mythology.
Okay.
I think those are my two top contenders that I think we'll rewind it back when we're doing our March wraps and our April TBRs. We'll see if my prediction was correct. It might be Kiss the Villain, which is the new Rena Kent that's coming out.
Oh.
Because we know how I feel about Rena Kent and MM.
Yeah, that's fair.
Shoot. Hold on. I feel like it's a cop out to pick 3. I want to just pick one.
Pick one. One. You only get to pick one. Which one do you think is going to be your favorite?
Here's the thing, this just became so hard. I don't know. That's so hard to pick because still beating, I think, is going to emotionally wreck me. But Kiss the Villain, I know the characters I'm going into, and it has all the setup to be my favorite. Also, we all know me. I am a toxic, dark romance girly to my core. And if it's MM, done. My favorite book in 2023, Toxic Stepbrother MM. Favorite book in 2024 was Toxic Mafia MM. I know who I am as a person, okay? I'll say Kiss the Villain, still beating a very close second.
Okay. I'm thinking it's probably going to be...
Yours is actually harder than mine, so haha.
I know, mine is going to be really difficult.
Because yours is all series.
It's all series, but you know what?
Because they're like beloved series.
I think my favorite's going to be The Rebel Witch.
Oh, see, that's fair for you.
Because I can count it.
You haven't even finished Heartless Hunter, so that's fair for you.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good.
I think that The Rebel Witch might be my favorite. I was very close to saying the Shadow Gods trilogy would be my favorite. But I think I'm going with
that.
Oh, yeah.
The immersive effect is definitely going to help make it even more fun.
I think I'm definitely going to be saying Rebel Witch, though. That's my prediction.
Okay. That's a fair prediction. As someone who's 75% into that book, that's a fair prediction.
All right. And we're off.
Yeah. Go March.
Well, thanks for hanging out with us today. Hope you enjoyed the vibes. If you want to stay up to date with us and see our full finished TBR lists, make sure you're following us on our Instagram.
And if you ever want to watch us do our podcast live, we go live over on Twitch at the Booktrovert Babes. If you miss it, we do also post it to YouTube as well. Till next time, you are awesome. You are doing great. We love you. Now stop stalling and go read that book.
Bye. Bye.
Come and stay.